We are back on It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati. Lindsay Patterson, Mike Santagata. Mike, how you feeling?
I'm okay. Yeah, I don't know if I'm. I mean, I'm up and down. Uh, there's good and bad with everything. I had good news today. I don't know. I had good stuff happen to me today, but it's just a little bit of a bittersweet week because anniversary of my dad's passing. So that not great, but we can move on. I'm fine. I just a reminder every year around this time.
No, that is definitely an important reminder for you, and hopefully you have a good rest of your week.
Too
Um,
deep. You should have said what's going on, and I could have said nothing.
nope, that is huge, actually. Um,
It's
Over
fine.
in the not so huge world, in the NFL, when it comes to news, because we're kind of in those stages. We're a month out from the NFL draft, 4 weeks from Thursday. I cannot wait for it because, again, the Cincinnati Bengals have 10 picks. We'll see what they do. But there's some news because it's the NFL owners' meetings. Free agency, the first phase, the second phase, the third phase. Now we're kind of towards the end where I think the Bengals will end up adding a few more depth pieces, but we'll get to that in our next segment. The hip drop tackle was the
Oh boy.
news of the day. It was news last week when it was brought to everyone's attention that they were going to vote on this at the NFL owners meetings, and everyone voted. All the owners voted for this rule to pass. They want it out of the game, and I know it's really easy because you're going to get that first reaction on social media where everyone's like, "Oh no, they're making it flag football, and there's this and there's that. They shouldn't ban it. The NFL, the game is changing before our eyes." And I will say how I feel really quickly, and then I'll let you get your thoughts on this. For me, it's not even the whole role. I want them to obviously make the NFL as safe as possible. I know injuries can happen in any given moment. Goodness, the Cincinnati Bengals have seen that happen over the last few years, unfortunately, to their franchise quarterback, not on a hip drop tackle, but just injuries alone. For me, what makes me a little nervous about the rule change is the officiating.
Yeah.
Officiating has been a problem in the league for quite some time, and I think a lot of pro sports could say the same thing when it comes to officials or referees. But for me, I don't think that they're going to be able to get this right. They can't. They don't even know what a catch is half the time. So I think that's where my fear is when it comes to this rule. And I feel like it was really brought to everyone's attention over the last year or so. And I think for us, for Cincinnati Bengals fans, we look at that tackle that Logan Wilson had in the Baltimore Ravens game, and there were other ones I know that they used to show the league, hey, this is why we should ban this. But for me, I'm kind of more on the side of I'm afraid of this being the game is on the line. How does a defender make the tackle without getting the penalty, or do they make the correct call, or are officials going to just overdo it when it's anything close to a hip drop tackle?
Yeah, I've been trying to find the exact rules. Ah, there we go. Okay. So if you don't know, it's an automatic first down and 15 yards. Of course, defensive penalties have to always be that terrible for them,
Mhm.
except for a pass interference, which is spot of the ball in an automatic first. So it is a foul. The player uses the following technique to bring a runner to the ground: grabs the runner with both hands or wraps the runner with both arms and unweights himself by swiveling and dropping his hips and or lower body, landing on and trapping the runner's legs at or below the knees. It's very interesting to me that I feel like the poster for this was Logan Wilson's tackle on Mark Andrews, and yet the NFL said that wouldn't be a penalty, and they didn't use it in the video. And I am already at the point where I am, what is a hip drop? Because if that's not one, I don't think hip drop tackles are dirty. I think it is what exactly is it? Because you could consider a gator roll tackle that, and gator rolls are taught everywhere from the lowest levels to the highest levels of a way to bring somebody down. The difference there being you're torquing your upper body versus swinging your lower body. But can an official see that in real time? Are we going to see a lot of gator roll tackles flagged as hip drop tackles? Is there going to be a key third down somewhere that's legislated because it's a hip drop? I don't know. I don't exactly know what a hip drop is. Maybe we'll find out as we go. Maybe it'll be called sparingly for only the most egregious of hip drops, but I kind of doubt that, right? Like we saw when they first implemented the body weight rule on quarterbacks, they
Mhm.
called it a lot early on to try to legislate it out of the game. Are they going to
Yeah.
do that with hip drops? And does that lead into other
Oh,
tackle forms? I don't know. How do you bring a runner down? I've seen. Okay, so the argument is when a guy's running away from you, the only time you ever do this is you're coming at an angle from behind somebody. And I've seen the argument, oh, you just keep running your feet and then you run through them and they gain a couple extra yards. These guys are so fast and so strong that you try to do that and you're just kind of hanging on, not doing anything. Like, that's why they dropped their weight in the first place, because they can't run through somebody. This was put into the game because of the legislation of the helmet to helmet rule and upper body. So you're taught to now rugby tackle. This is a form of rugby tackling where you drop your weight and bring them down that way. Well, that led to lower body injuries. How long until the next one? I don't know, but I'm not going to do a slippery slope thing. All I'm going to say is just, I don't know what it is, first of all, because it's a little confusing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if Logan Wilson's isn't one. And then 2, I'm worried about the officiating. And just 3, I feel like there is like this phenomena where every time you do something to try to legislate something out, a different problem arises. I'm all for trying to get the player safety, but they're not adding that second bye week. They're not shortening the amount of weeks in a season. They had, like, the second bye week makes sense because I feel like it could make them more money, but they won't do that. Yeah.
They're trying to add another game. I mean, they're going to
add more games.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not really about player safety. It's kind of punishing defenses. We saw the report, at least I saw the report, that the NFL is upset with that scoring's down too. And I don't think this leads to a bunch more points or anything, but it might lead to a few, maybe per week. This isn't a tackle that happens all that frequently. It just is put in the forefront because of the Mark Andrews injury on primetime football, which technically was not a hip drop by NFL rules. I don't understand anything.
Yeah, that one was crazy because I think even a lot of national people, I saw RG3 even put it out there. He was using the Logan Wilson highlight, and the league is sitting there saying that wasn't the hip drop tackle. And he's like, what else are you supposed to do as a defender? And I agree with you. If someone were to tell me, hey, the hip drop tackle, it's going to be banned, it's going to be penalized now, I would have said, oh, was it the Logan Wilson tackle? Because that's what I thought the hip drop tackle was. Then there was the image from the AFC Championship game. You remember when Tyler Boyd got hurt? Do you remember that tackle?
Yeah, hip drop. That was used in the video.
So, I mean,
and I never once thought that was a dirty play or anything.
No?
Football's a violent game. Eventually, people get injured. It just is what it is. There's other rules. There's other plays that make more sense to kind of legislate out, but they would hurt offenses. Talk about cut blocks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, hitting somebody at the knee like that. It's up to the defender to just protect themselves. I mean, you take that out, offenses will probably suffer, but it would be a little bit safer for the defensive line. Crack blocks, hitting an unsuspecting, it's illegal to hit any unsuspecting player except for defensive linemen on crack blocks. Like, take that out. Like, it would make sense. I don't want those taken out, but if you're talking about player safety, if that's your only concern, those things should get a look too. I just don't think it's about player safety. I think it's about the offense. Maybe that's just a conspiracy theory, but that's all these rules are all to benefit the offense.
It is. I mean, they're going to talk about the kickoff rule tomorrow. That's going to get voted on. If there's going to be changes with that, it just, if I'm a defender right now, and I think Mike Hilton even tweeted it out and paraphrasing a little bit here, but he's like, it's an offensive league. It really is. It is hard to play defense in the NFL. And it's the athletes that you go against at wide receiver, quarterbacks you start to see year after year. But it's also the rules that they keep changing for the defender. It is hard to play cornerback in this league without getting pass interference. A quarterback could just lobby a ball out, and all of a sudden, if you're anywhere near the guy, pass interference. I mean, we look at the DJ Turner penalty from that Baltimore Ravens game. It's hard to play in this league on defense. So for me personally, I said it before. I said it early on. Obviously, cool with safety. That's awesome. But it's going to be hard for officiating to get this right. And I feel like they're just going to overdo it. Like you brought that comparison up of the quarterback hits. We still see it and we question, what are you doing? Why are you calling that? And I'm expecting that to happen. I mean, what does the offense have? Taunting? That's probably their biggest thing right now.
Especially because they call less holding anymore. False starts less common. So like a lot of the offensive penalties kind of get relaxed a little bit. Mm-hmm. But my last point on this is just, I think we underestimate how fast this game is because guys don't want to like a hip drop to me is almost like a last resort. Like, I couldn't get there in time, but I got to bring this guy down. So I'm going to kind of drop the hips and swing around, drop the weight, bring him down. Because if a guy's running away from you and he's faster than you and he's stronger than you, how do you bring him down without dropping your weight? Now they're saying you can drop your weight, but you can't drop it and swing or swivel, as they call it. I think I'd prefer to say swing. because
Yeah.
that's what it seems like to me, swinging. Because swivel, I feel like you could confuse that with the gator. Like you're twisting your upper body. You call it swiveling your upper body, even though you're creating the momentum and not using the legs and swinging across those. But I don't know. I didn't make the rule. I just think we underestimate the speed of the game. The game is so fast, and it's not like guys. You talk about like, oh, they should just form tackle. You form tackle in front of somebody. Everybody teaches other methods of tackling. I don't think hip drop. I haven't seen anybody teach that. I think it's just like a spur of the moment. Oh crap! I got to bring this guy down type of thing.
Yeah, if you're Louis Narumo and your assistants, what do you say during camp? I mean, how do you teach this to guys who have been in the league, who've been in the sport for years? Hey, can't do that anymore.
I would say gator roll it because it's from a similar angle. Instead of swinging across, you're grabbing the legs and twisting, which I'm sure people are there's going to be a foot caught in the turf. Somebody's going to break an ankle, and that'll probably be taken out eventually too. It's a safe tackle for the most part, other than cleats and feet getting caught underneath, but it won't get caught under your body weight. Under the defender's body weight, could get caught on your own body weight, could get caught in the turf type of thing. But that's what I would personally, I'm not the expert here, but that's what I would probably go to is, yeah, you're going to want to lower your aiming point, wrap around the thigh board, which could lead to more knee injuries because you're getting a shoulder pad around that knee area, and twist to bring somebody down. It's not dirty. It's just trying to turn, kill the engine, the legs, and they just mean like stop the legs, not actually kill them. Stop the legs, and you'll bring the guy down. So that's what you probably have to move to. But eventually that could get taken out, and then it's just if you're not bigger and faster than that guy, he's probably going to score.
It's going to be the Thursday night football game to open the season. It's going to be called. Everyone's going to be watching the game. It's going to be like, oh, it's just the beginning of this. So we'll see. Obviously, yes, you have to adapt to new rule changes. That happens every year. But this one just feels like a failure already because I just know how it's going to be in games. It could be the biggest game of the season. And I don't rely on the NFL officiating to get anything right. It's a fast game. And are they going to go back and review every time they do it? Probably not. So it's going to be something. It's going to be something to watch, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot about this going into the 2024 season. Any other items with new rule changes that you want to talk about?
No, although I think they said something about like they can remove or they can look back on incorrect calls or something. There was like a interesting review thing put in there, like obvious things that they can overturn penalty wise, helmet to helmet hit or something that is clear and obvious. They can kind of overturn it now. But yeah, I haven't looked so much into that because I've just been looking at the hip drop stuff.
Yeah, I mean that stuff will be nice to go back and review, but I don't know. We'll see if anything changes.
Oh, and they didn't let my favorite one. They didn't let the new onside kick, the 4th and 20 conversion thing, or 4th and 15, whatever it was. That rule's so fun. I can't believe they.
I want some fun rules. I think it would be, even the kickoff stuff. I want to see what ends up happening there. So we'll see. NFL owner meetings continue. Zach Taylor talked to the media today. A little bit of a Joe Burrow update, and he talked to Tee Higgins. We'll get to all of that in free agency next on It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati. We are back on It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati. Again, the NFL owners meetings happening this week. Free agency still out there. The Cincinnati Bengals right now have about $20 million to spend. And I feel like they'll still do their annual carry about $10 million into the season. Maybe about $3 million of that will be for rookies and have a little bit to play with. If they could, I would go ahead and get Evan McPherson done. Maybe front load that contract, or they'll have a little more extra dough rolling into 2025 where they could use on a Jamar Chase extension. And I feel like they're going to get that done more next season than this offseason. They'll pick up the 5th-year option and they'll get it done with Uno. When it comes to wide receiver number 2, number 5 on the roster in everybody's program, Tee Higgins. Zach Taylor talked about Tee Higgins today. Not really breaking any news. Even when this news came out, we've talked about Tee Higgins plenty going into the offseason, and we continued even when he requested the trade from the Cincinnati Bengals. Zach Taylor kind of sounded when he was talking to the media. Jay Morrison has more over on Twitter that it's kind of like a Jonah Williams situation where Jonah Williams requested the trade and nothing really happened. Tee Higgins is more than likely going to show up. Tee Higgins hasn't said that, but we probably won't see him in the offseason program. Probably won't see him for the majority of training camp. But the Bengals still hold all the leverage in the situation. And if you're another NFL team, you're not giving up a top pick. You're probably not giving up a top 40 pick to take on a huge wide receiver contract. Yes, Tee Higgins is awesome. He is a top receiver in the NFL. I don't want to do rankings or anything like that. And I'm so glad he plays for the Bengals offense. But he's more than likely going to be here for one more year in stripes. We'll see what happens in 2025. Any thoughts on Zach Taylor's comments?
Not too much. I kind of expected this where they don't trade guys really,
No.
unless they raise a stink. Like he's going to have to go Dunlap or Palmer, threaten to retire or cause locker room issues and lower his own value. Like this is the bad part. Lower your own value in the trade. It's a lose-lose for everybody, but that's the only way you'll get traded off this team unless you get an overwhelming offer. I heard Brad Spielberger from PFF, friend of the show, everybody's friend of the show, say in Indianapolis that a lot of teams don't even call because they know what the asking price is, where the Bengals are probably asking for a first-round pick. We could talk about should they do this, should they? They're asking for a first-round pick, and if they don't get it, they're just going to rock with them this year, and that's okay. I think it makes sense for the most part. I would have gone more all-in for this season. There's a lot of unused cap space. We can get to the Trent Brown deal in a second, but I look at this and I think, I didn't see him getting traded in the first place unless on draft, like the scenarios are on draft night, the receivers go earlier than expected, and Jacksonville's sitting at 17, and Brian Thomas Jr. was their hope, but he goes at 14 or wherever, just before they pick, and they don't want to go to the next guy. Maybe their next guy is Keon Coleman, but they think he's a second-round guy. At that point, maybe Trevor Lawrence is in the GM's ear a little bit, saying like, "Hey, I like Tee Higgins," and you make that trade. Now they lost out on Calvin Ridley. Actually, I forgot. So it makes a lot of sense that they need another receiver. They wanted another receiver to go with Gabe Davis. Got distracted because if you're watching YouTube, my video went away for a second. So I could see that happening, or wide receiver injury in camp, maybe to a guy that's on 1 year left in his deal. So you kind of replace him with T, extend T to make the cap hit lower this season and work with it that way. That's another way I could see it, or maybe early in the season. But I feel like by the time the season rolls around, they're going to kind of be in their ways of, unless Tee Higgins raising a big stink about this whole thing, he's going to be a Bengal because they're just focused on winning this season. And I understand it because this might be their best chance to win a Super Bowl over the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, and the thing is, I truly do. This will make sense when I say it. I think the Cincinnati Bengals do value Tee Higgins. And then the follow-up question would be, well, if they value him, they would give him the extension. They're not agreeing on the number. We do not know what the guaranteed is, but I'm sure it would probably be in the range when you look at some of these other wide receiver contracts, the 65-ish. I mean, does that sound outrageous to say 65 to 70 million guaranteed? Anywhere around there?
No, I think that's probably around what he's probably asking for guaranteed wise. I do think after the Calvin Ridley deal, the annual value probably went up because he's like, I'm better than Calvin Ridley. And he probably is. I think he is. So, yeah. And he's younger. And he's probably, so there's a lot of reasons you would pay him more than Calvin Ridley. I'd pay him more than, I think, every wide receiver that's been extended or given a deal so far. I'd give him more money than that. Like, I think he's a better player than those guys. From the Bengals, makes a lot of sense why you tagged him because you got a lot of leftover money. I don't know where you're using it.
I know. Could you imagine if they actually did trade him and then they would have even more money in their cap space?
For what? Mike Brown's wallet? Or like,
they're just going to keep rolling it over and rolling it over. And the cap space is going to continue to grow. And the Bengals are going to have all this money in the world not going anywhere. But no, I do think for them personally, they can't agree on well, obviously we know they can't agree on the number or they would have had the extension done.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. I know obviously early on it was the Bengals haven't had conversations in over a year. We do not know what's going to come out from Tee Higgins camp. But for now, Tee Higgins is going to play for the Bengals. And I would honestly put it at I agree with you when it comes to Jacksonville probably being a candidate. I don't think the Patriots, unless it was a day 2, and I don't think the Bengals are willing to get a round 2 for Tee Higgins because they do value him high. They just can't agree on the contract right now. But could you imagine getting Jacksonville's 17 and picking at 18?
Only thing that stinks is if you had 17 and 18 at the same time early in the draft, you might be able to move up and get a guy you really want. But
you got 10 picks.
Yeah, but well, hey, maybe you move up and then you get picks for T. I don't know. I don't see this happening. But that's the scenario where maybe, like my 5% chance, call it 6% chance, because 5% would be scientifically significant, won't happen. So we'll call it 6%. It could happen. All the receivers go. earlier than expected. Jacksonville's sitting there. They were locked in on receiver. And they just go, let's just trade Tee Higgins and extend him. Like, let's not mess around with trying to get a guy in round 2, whatever. And then you got 17 and 18. Maybe you can get Jerzon Newton and you can get your right tackle of the future. Or maybe Bowers is still there. Or there could be a lot of fun scenarios there, but it's probably a low chance of happening.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the only reason I hold out a little hope for Jacksonville is because if you look at the AFC South, all the moves that the other teams are making.
Everybody else got better.
Yeah, Tennessee is looking kind of fun. We'll see what they're able to do with Brian Callahan. And then obviously the Texans. I still look for the Texans to be favorite to win the division. Then we'll see what happens with the Colts. But if you're the Jacksonville Jags, you're like, okay, last year was extremely disappointing with how they started the season off. They need a star. Reconnect your quarterback with his college wide receiver. We'll see what happens. But yeah, probably not going to happen. But yes, Tee Higgins more than likely will be in Bengal stripes in 2024. Zach Taylor did offer a little bit of an update on Joe Burrow. One of the things that we know about Zach Taylor, he's not going to give too much detail when it comes to recovery time, when the player is going to be back. We saw it with the calf injury. He's just really he never does that. And I think it's good. You never want to give a timeline on when you're expecting to come back. I know Joe Burrow did talk to the ESPN Ben Baby last month. He's expecting to be cleared by mid-May so he can start throwing again. We'll really see their offseason program begin in about a month or so. I know that teams can start to report in 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens with Joe Burrow. Did see a workout video for him. He's lifting weights, doing a little exercises. So we'll see what it looks like for Joe. But Zach pretty much just said we're positive with how on track he is with everything. But at the same time, didn't really offer much of an additional timeline.
Yeah. I'm just still waiting on that. Like every update we get is like, oh yeah, sure. I don't know. I want to see him throw. Probably not going to see a real update for another few months. It just is what it is. The ACL of wrists, as somebody put it. And I was like, yeah, kind of like stinks, but odd injury. Everybody says it'll be okay though. So I'm expecting that it'll be all right.
Just want to see that first highlight throw. And
hey, at least he can grab weights, right? Like that's an improvement.
Those weights look heavy. I'll be honest with you. I don't have a wrist injury right now, and I couldn't lift those weights. So it seems optimistic. He's been working out, but we'll see. Obviously, Joe, when he talked to Ben Baby, he was kind of hinting towards mid-May that he should be cleared. I'll go, and then we'll see what the rest of the off season brings. I don't get too into training camp and how normal I wish it would be for Joe Burrow. But at the end of the day, if Joe Burrow is healthy, I have faith in this offense, and that's the only thing I can ask for. Speaking of keeping Joe Burrow healthy, protection on the offensive line, the longer it went, it's only been a week since they signed Trent Brown, but the days that were going by, the number didn't really get out, only the 1-year contract extension or 1-year deal with the Cincinnati Bengals. And I thought, you know what? It's probably really team friendly, good for the Bengals front office. And today, we got that number from Over the Cap. I know over on social media, you can see a little over $2 million guaranteed to Trent Brown, a $4.4 million cap hit, which is absolutely unbelievable. I know he's a little older. I know we've talked a little bit about how maybe he left the Patriots and how all that worked out, but he's a huge guy. He's a right tackle. Could be a 1-year option. We'll see if he can go full season at right tackle. Still gives you the option to get a rookie in the draft. Maybe they go that way at 18 or they do it in the second round. But for me, I feel like that's a great deal for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Fantastic deal. Too good to be true. This is I'm going to live in blissful ignorance for the next few months, but this is exactly how I felt with Lyle Collins. This is where I was like, oh, wow, Lyle Collins for that price? And then it's like, oh, we got damaged goods. Okay. So is there something else, or is it just a high risk? Because he is a high risk guy. I mean, didn't work with Vegas because of that. And when you're looking at him now, his weight clause in the New England contract, missed time with New England, was injured in New England. Could that still be affecting him? Got benched in New England. What's up with that? I don't know. It seems like a lot of people are saying it's fine, whatever. It's just a weird situation in New England. But I think whenever I look at a market like this, a guy who's this good, I think when he plays, he's the second best offensive tackle that was on the market after Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith in a tier of his own. I think Trent Brown was next over Illuminor, Jonah, everybody else. So I think should be signed. Some of those guys got signed to huge deals. Jermaine Illuminor got $7 million a year. I think he's a much better player. But you see, it's tough. This is swing tackle. This is Chuck's Okorafor money that he just got signed for. It's like no guarantees. I'm sure there's a lot of game incentives in this. So I have a little bit of worry. I'm like, is this too good to be true? Like, is this like so good that I should be worried? Kind of. But we'll see. Maybe it's just everybody was scared off on taking the risk, and the Bengals take the risk like they did on Pac-Man Jones and whatever you think of how that ended. It was awesome for a while. It really worked. They've done this before where they take this risk and it works out. This is not a similar risk to Pac-Man Jones. I don't think he's doing anything off the field like that. But there is just the effort and concerns with all of that. And if the team starts losing, for the concerns with that. So I have a little bit of concern that maybe it's too good to be true, but I live in blissful ignorance that this is an absolute steal. And I think the other thing this signifies is tackle at 18. I think we're closing in on it outside of maybe a couple guys like a Bowers falling. Maybe they just can't overlook it, and tackles went. That's why he fell. I think they would take most of these top 5 tackles over like a Jerzon Newton or a Byron Murphy. We'll see. I think they'll really like Murphy, but I don't have any inside info on that. I just think he might be the pivot if the tackles go. And he might just go higher too. I mean, I think the NFL really likes him. So there's a few guys you could look around as a possibility, but when I'm looking at it, it's always felt like offensive tackle will be BPA. It's felt like offensive tackle is probably their plan at 18. This deal signifies offensive tackle might be their plan at 18. So we'll see. But to me, I'm looking at this and going, is this damaged goods? And this probably means offensive tackle at 18. But steal of a deal. Absolute steal. He's a good player.
Yes, and I want to get to more of the offensive line, and we've talked plenty about some of these rookie possibilities at 18. Here's the thing where I think anything is absolutely possible, and the Cincinnati Bengals are still going to go BPA at 18. When Jeff Hobson, who is inside the building, he did his mock draft. He put it out on Friday. He had the Cincinnati Bengals taking Johnny Newton. And I'm just saying, I
really
love
like
it. I love it. Love it. I've said it before, defensive tackles can win championships. You can look at the Kansas City Chiefs, what they were able to do. It would be absolutely huge to have another monster out there where you were just struggling with over the years. And yes, they have Sheldon Rankins coming. Yes, Trey Hendrickson had himself a year, but man, adding a monster would be so huge for them in the trenches. And yes, I still think they need a tackle. We'll see where they go. But yeah, when I look at that 18th pick, it just feels like a trenches pick. Kind of felt that way over the last few months. I love the Brock Bowers pick. I think it would be so much fun, but maybe, I'm thinking a little too outside the box, what is important, protect Joe Burrow or get a monster on the defensive side of the ball. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I feel like it's a great deal for them. Trent Brown, pretty much, I mean, it feels like a steal. I hope it works out better than the Collins deal. Obviously injuries is something that you're going to be watching, but to have a swing tackle, to have possibly a rookie that comes in, and if Trent Brown gets hurt, you can put the rookie tackle out there. Also, with this extra money, I'm going to keep saying this until he signs with the team. Dalton Risner is still available. You want to make this offensive line better? Get your interior better. Get your interior better.
I think they still have interest in possibly bringing Mekhi Becton back as a guard and swing tackle too. It's a possibility. We'll see. I think you give Volson. Everybody talks about giving Turner competition to start. I'd give Volson competition to start more. I think he's older. He's played about the same level, both kind of low end starters for their years starting. I think Turner is probably going to improve. So that's why I wasn't. He had better metrics. I'm not grinding the Titans defense, but everybody's in on Christian Fulton, and Turner's better by every metric I could look at, every grading system, what Titans fans say. It's the LSU. It's not even the name. I don't think people even care about his name. I think they just care he went to school with Joe Burrow, because every free agent that has ever attended the University of Louisiana State is suddenly some big free agent get. This started with CEH, and I didn't understand at all. You found one of the only free agents slower than your current running. You found a free agent that's slower than Samaje Perine, and you're going to talk about bringing him in to have an explosive offense? I don't see that. I don't. He got benched for Jerick McKinnon coming off core surgery. He wasn't even fully recovered. Super Bowl, they knew who they wanted out there. So that was one of them. And the Thad Moss thing, and like all these LSU guys, it's like, are they actually that good, or it's like, are we just so hyped? We collectively, not me, but Bengals fans, so hyped about that 2019 LSU squad that they just want the whole team.
They do.
Sure, whatever. I just don't think it's a good move. Christian Fulton, I think he would have been benched behind Turner. I think that whoever they're looking at, to me, should probably play behind Turner. That's where I am, because I think Turner was fine last year. I think he was okay. We don't need to bench every young defensive back that plays at a low-end starter level, because I would just stop drafting defensive backs in the first 3 rounds if that's the case, because a lot of guys play bad their first year, or at least inconsistent.
And they offered him a 1-year deal, and he obviously took the 1-year deal with the Chargers.
Yeah, because he probably had a better chance to start. I mean, I look at the Chargers roster. I don't know who's
100%. So I think for Cincinnati, when they're looking at this cornerback depth or what they're looking at in the free agency market, they're offering a 1-year deal. They're telling you, hey, we got this guy in year 2. We'll see what Turner looks like, but we need you out there. We might need you on a rotation. You'll be with Cam Taylor-Britt. We get Turner. But there's still an opportunity to compete in our secondary. And I think you should, when you think of the rest of the money they have left over, add to your interior. I know that Dalton Risner, I'm still going to stay on this for a while, but I know Dalton Risner tweeted out, look, I'm not looking for the bag. I'm looking for just starting guard money. You talk to Dalton, you say, you know what? You come in, you compete at left guard. He's going to say compete. Well, I think I should be the starter. But you come in, we have a left guard that we can have competition with, add to our interior. Let's go protect Joe Burrow and see what happens. And I think everything should be on the table when you think about the trenches. Yes, we talk about all the draft picks and the trenches and what they can do in this offseason. Add to your interior. All of that would be extremely important. Imagine him next to Orlando Brown Jr.
Yeah.
That's
Look, I think Volson's a fine low-end starter at the moment. Everybody who's played next to him has kind of had a career-worst season. I don't know if that's a super coincidence, but he's getting better. I think he played his best ball at the end of this year. Yeah. So I'm not against him starting, but if I'm looking at man, you could make that offensive line group even better. You could, because to me, I'd add competition, and maybe you had competition for DJ Turner. I just think DJ Turner is like 22 years old, and Cordell Volson's 25, going to be 26 this year.
26. Yeah,
he's 26 already.
Well, I think he's going to be 26.
Going to be 20. This is his age 26 season coming up. I think would be the way I'd put it. So kind of up there. He's probably maxed out if you're hoping for him to get better. I don't know for sure, but yeah, I'm into Dalton Risner. I'm into bringing Mekhi Becton as a swing tackle guard hybrid type thing. That sounds interesting to me, especially because he wouldn't start, and you kind of need that. You kind of need as much depth as you can get with Trent Brown, because he started 39% of games in his career. You're going to miss games this year. I think with this $4 million deal, he could play 6 games and it's a good deal. But I think you also have to prepare for that, because that's, in theory, provided you can get replacement level play behind him. If you have Jackson Carman coming in when he goes out, I think we made a mistake in the planning in this process. So you've got all that money, go sign Dalton Risner, go sign Mekhi Becton, go sign somebody, go bring in an old nose tackle or something, because it doesn't seem like they're interested in Tyler Tart. You can go. Xavier Howard's kind of washed a little athleticism wise, but he played with Louis Anarumo. Could that be your 4th corner, your 3rd outside corner guy? Just like he could play a little. Like, he's not so bad that he can't be out there. Or are Bengals fans going to be into the LSU man himself, Patrick Peterson?
No.
Kind of washed as well. What, we're not going to start? I think he's a better athlete than CEH.
The only LSU players I need on this team, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. And look, if Justin Jefferson finds a way to come here. No, I'm just joking. I know Justin Jefferson isn't coming here, but it's Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I do not care about the rest of the LSU players. I don't care. Just keep them healthy, and that is the biggest core of your offense. Is there anything else you would like to say about free agency for the Cincinnati Bengals as we wrap this up?
Nope. I think we're moving into the draft period, but I am still writing about free agents.
Next time we record, we will be 4 weeks and 1 day away from pick 18, and I cannot wait to talk about draft picks. We will do that every week. We will talk a new position, get right back into it, because we talked about it in February. I know a lot of people probably forgot. Get into March, and every single week my pick changes at 18, and we'll get into just different position groups for the Cincinnati Bengals. Maybe do a little fun mock draft round 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, it'll be here before you know it. Michael, have great stuff over on All Bengals. What is coming up next?
Trent Brown article, hopefully up by the time you're listening to this, maybe by Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, somewhere around there. Gonna write it. Got to get it out there. And then, I don't know, is it too late to write about Zach Moss and Mike Gesicki?
No. People will love it. You need to bring back the offense. Mike has Mike is a good interview because I like that he said his name Gasecki because he said everybody's been saying it wrong for years.
Gasecki.
Gasecki. I think
Okay.
people are calling him Jasecki.
I think Gasicki.
Gasecki. Maybe I'm butchering
So
how he said we
Gasecki.
should say his name.
Oh, I don't know. I've always called him Gasicki, and then I heard Gasecki, and now it's just one of the two. Whichever one's correct, give that to Mike. The other one, delete from the archives.
I hope we're talking about him needing to get a bag at the end of the season because he just went off in the slot.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
We'll see what happens. Rooting for everybody to get paid.
After the Irv Smith thing, you're a little bit more cautious about saying
I
it'll
do
happen.
not say this is the best tight end Joe Burrow's had. I do not say it anymore. I'm just gonna say, let's go have some fun. Let's go have some fun and see what happens. And I hope you're getting a bag at the end of the season. I will not say anything more than that when it comes to the tight end room right now. Unless they get Brock Bowers, then I'm going to be like, we're back on. We're back on.
Yeah, I'd be fully in. Yeah, go sign Jakob Johnson. Is he still out there? Come on, get a fullback. Let's get real.
Fullbacks are people too. Hopefully that changes in the next few weeks. We'll see. Make sure you check Mike's workout. All Bengals _Sands. You can follow me at LNDS Patterson. We will be back on Wednesday. Hopefully there's more Bengals news on It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati.